Kermit Hillman. Peabody Arthur Sylvester Jr. Rankin Knott Crockett Jr. Salmon George Allen II. Shortlift John Richard. Tomlinson Robert Woodbury. Tuck Malcolm Herbert. Wilkinson Robert Edward. Mace Earl Forrest. Thank you.
James Stroke Paul. Gerald Ellsworth Spofford. Charles Harold Wilson Jr. Joseph Sebastian Boulos. Frederick Olson Briggs. John Seagrave Colby. Donald Brooks Holyoke. Joseph Lawrence Killos. Robert Colin Kinghorn. Robert Miles Moore. Robert Cowley Morang. Corbin Pennell Murray. Clayton Hinckley Preble. Jacob Irvin Stahl. Roger Austin Stearns. Walter Lewis Stilisis. Neil Harvey Walker. Richard Arthur York. Edward Pomeroy Barrows. Leland Stanford Buck Jr. Richard Loring Chick. Clarence Pearl Dow. John Alexander Friday. Gerald Alphonse Gaulet. Laurie Jones Greenleaf. Michael Hebern. Donald Hartley Huff. Joseph Karamanski. Donald Murray Kilpatrick Jr. Eugene Ledger. Richard McLeod. Edward Reed Myler.
I'm not even supposed to be here today. I called up Friday to find out what they knew about the Korean conflict, and they said they had no data. Then they asked me if I knew anyone that died in Korea, and I said I did. So I got nailed. First name I have is John Lowe Babson Jr. He's from Kentucky, New Hampshire, and he was my classmate and my study room companion. So, very personal. He joined the Marines when he got out of school. He went to OCS and went straight to Korea. My whole class of ROTC were grabbed within 30 days of graduation. John was in the 1st Marine Division in Korea, and he died on August 29th. He was badly wounded, and he refused to leave his troops, and he died from loss of blood. Richard Lucas. He got all through the Korean War till the very end, and he got mixed up in pork chop health.
Oh boy.
His remains have never been recovered. Robert Welch. He was a 2nd Division Field Artillery Forward Observer. I met him on the hill right back of T-Bone Ridge, and we were together for 3 months. And then in December, 2 days after Christmas, we said goodbye to each other. 2 days later, he was dead. The only thing I can say about these 3 people, they all died too soon. Thank
Parker Nash Bolton, Cornell Cameron Rushworth, Charles John Taylor, Arthur Lou Teal, Richard Lucius Warren, Robert John Watson, Franklin Smith Westcott, Lyle Dalton Wiggins, Harland Elmore Day, Richard Elroy Deltwire, Charles Edrith Dunn, Albert Nathaniel Edelston, Donald Francis Graves, Heath Leslie Grover, Ralph Robertson Hartley, George Vane Henry, Milton Herman, Richard Fry Jones, Leonard Martin Peterson, Charles Leslie Pfeiffer, James Longsworth Rostrom, Ralph Charles Runnels, James William Russell, Philip Irvin Russell, Robert Matthew Ruth, Frederick Johnson Shepard, Lee Simmons, Guy Elcott Torrey, Daniel Albert Witcher, John Merrill Wilson, Edward Buxton Woodsman, Donald Ware Abbott.
Philip Dana Jenny, Theodore Ford Fettinger, Fleming Paul Gordon, Hardy Herbert Vinal, Jones Richard Brooks, Keith Austin Rodney, McCobb Joseph Lee, Packard Richard Malcolm, Parker Robert Emmett, Peabody Myron Farnham, Quinn Jr. Harry Markman, Sanders Jr. Crandall Arthur, Simpson Richard Walter, Steinmetz John Ferdinand, Stevens Sumner Worth, Stimson Clayton Sheldon, Walker George Brewster, Wallace Francis Irving, Austin Irwin Grover, Brocklick Robert Andrew, Cole Virgil Irwin, Corey Arthur Robert, Crabtree Robert Scammon, Crockett John Lawrence, Ellsworth Earl Everett, Flanagan Charles Augustin, Chorus Frank Joseph, McLaughlin Orland Frank, Pierce Warren Frederick, Ramsdell Hollis Leroy, Robertson Allen Ronald, Tibbetts Arthur Jackson.
This is the list of Vietnam vets, their fallen heroes. William Francis Callanan, Arthur James Elliott, Walter Lewis Hall, James Michael McDonough Jr., Thomas Edward Gray Jr., Dana Leon Gerald, Alan Harry Zimmerman, Stephen Winfield Davis, Paul Louis Stimson, Thomas Bernard Ferguson, Stanton Richard Dyke, Guilford Frank Dashner, Theodore Glenn Drew.
Veterans of the current wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. Nicholas Allen Robertson, Matthew Scott Kotu, David Michael Viverka, James Russell Zimmerman, John Randall Brainerd.
Mainely Voices will now sing a song written by the University of Maine professor back in 1946 to honor the fallen World War II veterans.
This is cool.
Lines to follow.
This is cool right here. Yeah.
Everyone please join me at the flagpole as we raise the WWII flag and lay taps.